So all these motorcycles. Mm-hmm. My dad was, I think I told you this, he was the first licensee for Harley Davidson.
I don't think that you did tell me that.
Okay, so my dad's super old. Well, he's dead, so I guess he's like not old anymore, but like was old, I guess. So he raced motorcycles, and at that time, Harley, like let's say the 50s, right? There weren't really, you couldn't really like buy a Harley shirt. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So Harley was like, got big, and then what happened, like in 1945, the war ended. Harley had made a bunch of motorcycles for the war.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
So then all these veterans who came back that now are fucking like jobless and degenerates, which a lot of people forget about. It wasn't like they came back and were like war heroes all over. So those guys kind of turned into those like long hair biker dudes of the 60s.
Okay.
Right? And they found camaraderie amongst like, yeah, basically that biker community. They kind of created that Harley community.
Yeah.
So my dad was just barely kind of like too young to go into World War II. I mean, he would have only been like 10 or something, or 9 or whatever. So anyway, in that time frame, let's say like the 60s or whatever, he was illegally making Harley Davidson t-shirts, and he was selling them at the racetracks, like while they were racing.
Okay.
So then Harley came to him and was like, hey, you got to knock this shit out. And he finagled this deal where he got to sell the Harley shirts, but just pay them a royalty and become the first licensee of Harley Davidson.
That is insane.
It's a really cool story. And so I always tell everybody, he's famous for, I know you've seen this. I swear I told you this.
No.
Do you know the shirt that says, it's like, if you can read this, the bitch fell off the back?
Yeah.
That's my dad made that.
No way.
On my life. It's like that, all these like, there's another funny shirt that you'll see it's really famous, and it's like this angry biker, and he's wearing a bucket on his head, and it like a cut out thing for his eyes, and it says like fucking helmet laws. He made that. Like, he's famous for making all those really bad, like degenerate, like biker shirts.
That is so awesome.
So
wait, where was this in St. Louis? Did they grow up like in the St. Louis area? Or?
Yeah, my dad did.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's from St. Louis and kind of that whole. That's a good like biker town.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And just like the Midwest in general.
Yeah.
So he did that. Then like as he got older, me and him, I raced motorcycles, we got a little close, and so we started collecting the first and last of every engine model of Harley Davidson. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they came out with different models of engines. That's what they're a knucklehead, panhead, shovelhead, whatever. So
are those types?
those are types.
Okay.
Types of
Knucklehead?
engines. A knucklehead.
Cool.
Because it looks like a knuckle. A panhead, because the top of it looks like a pan.
Cool.
Yeah, shovelhead, obviously. So there's just like all these, old bikes. And so we went around and we just tried to like collect all of those. Or other ones that were like really cool, you know what I mean?
So you've been doing this forever?
Forever.
Like before you worked for Harley Davidson?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I was big into the Harley thing. So then that turned into, then when he passed away, I basically kind of like got all of the bikes, do you know what I mean? And now I have them, like I said, in different spots or whatever.
That is so sweet.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Except for I don't do anything with them now because I'm so wrapped up in my own business and thing that I do.
Yeah, but like what would you do with them?
Ride them.
Each individually?
It's fun to like take a bike, especially like an old classic bike, take it out and ride it to like, they're called cafe racers. You know what I mean? Like ride from cafe to cafe. It's like cool.
Isn't there like a Harley wave that people do?
What? Yeah,
That's it?
this is it.
Okay.
You're riding, right? So, well, I guess it'd be your left hand. So you just like put your hand down while you're passing somebody else. And it's like the...
Okay. Over Thanksgiving, we had this conversation about what the Harley wave was. And I thought it was a very strong fist in the air. Like this.
That's Black Panther.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what my whole family said. They're like, I'm pretty sure that's Black Lives Matter, actually.
Yeah, that's
One of the
something a little
jokes.
different.
And I was like, okay, well, we're going back and forth on what it was. And I think somebody said that. And they were like, well, you can't put your hand in the air because, like, you'll fly off.
I don't think you're going to fly off. What do you mean you're going to fly off?
That was like my sister's response. And I was like, did somebody learn that the hard way? Like, so that wasn't ever a thing. They just made that
but when
up.
you're riding by, is it you just like put your hand down low,
Okay.
right? And that's like the signal, like, hey, how's it going? Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
But it's not even necessarily a Harley. It's like a biker thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Just
but Harley Davidson riders, they've got a thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you pass by like another bike that's not Harley Davidson.
You know what's funny? It is a thing. It like just depends. Like I wouldn't, if I see another biker, I'm gonna like do this. Do you know what I mean? But some Harley riders are, if you're like not on a Harley. But that's kind of like a thing in the past. That's like a thing from like the 70s or 80s. Now,
so Harley riders aren't better than other riders in today's world.
You know what it is kind of the difference of? Is like, so imagine somebody pulls up in like a brand new cool Corvette, right? Nice car. But then another guy pulls up in a brand new cool Ferrari. Like the Ferrari is just cooler because it's way more expensive. Like Harleys are, I don't know, they're fucking, a really decked out nice can be like $40,000.
Wow.
You know what I mean? As where you may buy a Yamaha for like $5,000.
Yeah.
So, and I actually, probably the Yamaha's not actually much worse of a bike, right? It's just like, it's like driving a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When Transformers came out.
Love where this is going.
And
sometimes you're like talking to a 5-year-old.
I don't need those.
Don't need them.
And Megan Fox. I think this was Transformers 2.
Okay.
Okay. And Megan Fox in like the opening scene was on her bike. And then for some reason, like she was actually on it, you know, like sitting on it to clean it or something.
Got it.
I was like, I
want one of those.
I want to be a motorcycle rider.
Yeah. No, you just want to be Megan Fox.
Well, yeah.
That's what you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like Shirley sales went up there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what was a big one, which is really funny, is Harley Forever. What they do is they're called air-cooled motors, which basically means like your car has a radiator, right? There's liquid that goes through it to cool it down. They're air-cooled, which means there's little fins in it to just blows off from the wind. They came out with their first liquid-cooled bike, which was a big deal, and it was the V-Rod.
Okay.
Did you ever hear of this thing?
No.
So, like, Porsche helped them design it. Like, it doesn't even look
Sweet.
like a Harley. It just looks completely different. Harley was trying to, like, go in a new direction and be trendy or whatever. And they got remember Britney Spears did a music video where she's, like, on a Harley and, like,
Yes.
dancing all over it?
Yes.
I'm sure Harley paid her gobs of money to dance on this V-Ride. And it just totally backfired.
No
Hard.
way.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Like,
think about your average like Harley rider. Like what? They don't want to be associated with something that Britney Spears is doing.
I guess that's so true. And her audience also doesn't
What
care
the
about
fuck
what
is
motorcycle
this?
she's riding.
No.
Wow. What an interesting, like somebody sat down at a table and was like,
This is it.
you know who we got to get? Britney fucking Spears.
This is, you know what? I really think about this a lot, like where companies get the ideas. And like, God, the super controversial one is like the Bud Light thing.
Oh, yeah.
That happened. Is like, I remember everybody talking about it. And it's like, this is one of those things that I always do. I feel like there's opinions about right and wrong or that other thing. It's like, but also like, you gotta remember, it's also just a business.
Yeah.
Like, you got to do things that make money so people have jobs. And if you don't do that, like, that's your job.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
It's to, like, make sure that people keep their jobs and
Right.
make money. And so, yeah, I think about that with, like, the Bud Light thing or with, like, Peloton had that thing. Do you remember that one?
What was Peloton's?
This has got to be wrong, but I remember it. It's like a guy painting his son's nails.
I don't remember that at all.
And there's just like huge backlash about it. Because if you think about like who are the people who ride Pelotons, it's like rich, older white people.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know how behind the trans movement that group is, but I'm sure not incredibly so.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, it's again a goofy thing. Do you know what I mean? But just it's funny.
I always, whenever Bud Light came out with that commercial, and obviously there were a lot of angry people, I kind of felt the opposite. Like I was like, Bud Light is in literally everybody's names, and I don't know how like the market like pricing went whenever that happened. Do you have any idea what like the implications of that were?
Yeah, they lost a ton.
Really?
That was bigger than any of the Peloton or Harley thing or anything like that.
Yeah.
Bud Light lost a lot with that.
I just.
But you know, I think it was also a sign of like the time of which they did it. Do you know what I mean? It's like things were really hot around that topic, and so but it is like if you just, to me, right, if you're like thinking about it, obviously from St. Louis, so like Anheuser-Busch is a big thing.
Yeah.
And their real like claim, what they do is like when there's like a need for something for the military, right? They will shut down beer production and make bottled water that they send for free
Wow.
to those people. Like their like niche thing really is being like the American classic. They support the veterans. How many scholarships they do for like veterans and stuff like that is crazy.
I didn't know that.
Big, not a little bit, like legitimate big fucking money.
That's so awesome.
So I think when they did that, it's like, to be honest, I really didn't think it was that weird at the time. But what it was, you just already had these people that were already like, they don't like that.
Yeah.
And that was like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right.
And just and so I forget what it was, but at a time they had lost 30% market share. And for Bud Light to do that, which is like a staple,
Yeah.
is pretty tough.
I think it's got to be so hard to be the in that conversation, because you on one hand are like, do we stay with the times and make our stance on whatever is the hot topic right now?
Yeah.
Or do we think about all the people that are working for us and what this might cause?
Yeah, there is that, but I also think, here's what I think about a lot of times in situations like that, is like people that come up through, they get marketing degrees, right? They go to universities where there's big marketing departments and they're more like liberal-minded, just individuals in general, as a percentage. So they're going to come in with their own like ideas outside of like what that company's like core competencies are, you know?
Yep.
And so you're going to have this like little head butting about marketing versus like the core competencies of the company.
Right.
So I know one that's like, the thing that's in the news now that's like blowing up huge is that new Marvels movie.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about? There's like, okay, so you know there's Miss Marvel?
Yes.
There's a sequel now.
Okay.
You probably didn't even know it came out because it did so bad.
No.
Like they put hundreds of millions of dollars behind it. And it just is like, it's just panned by everybody. It's being terrible.
Yeah.
But the thing behind it though is that like it's Marvel trying to like make an all-woman cast where it's like the main actor, the two sidekicks, the bad guy's a female, like a female director, like the whole thing.
Yes.
And I think that that's kind of the same thing as the Bud Light thing is like, what they're trying to do is take this step out because, you know, normally it's just like, okay, here's Thor, here's Captain America, here's, you have all these like male figures, right? And then, so then what they're trying to do is like accomplish this thing by having a female cast.
Yeah.
But you kind of forget that like, I think that is okay. And here, I'll give the analogy about it, is like, when they put out Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America, right? Those are like the three biggies, right? They're all those guys. Is like, I don't think that their intention was like, oh, we're gonna pick these men to put out. It's just like, here's these popular stories.
Yeah.
And here's a really good story.
Right.
Right? With this, it's like the story was second to, hey, we want it to be all female.
Right.
And so you forget that like, I don't think it had to do with that it was females in the cast that made people not like it. Because I remember, do you remember the movie Bridesmaids?
Of course.
Celebrated as like one of the funniest movies of all time.
Absolutely.
And it
Yes.
was shot on like a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
Murdered it. But it's because I think what they did, they set out and they're like, hey, we have this really funny premise for a movie.
Right.
They weren't saying, hey, we need to make a female movie.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Is Miss Marvel, is that not a comic, like an old comic book?
It is an old comic book, but it's like, it's, God, we're gonna get real nerdy. So, Captain Marvel was a guy, right? But then there's like this story of how it's like,
She is Captain Marvel, right? That's like
she
what they
is
call
Captain
it. Okay,
Marvel.
Yes. Okay.
But the story that got famous for Captain Marvel is that, this is so cool. It's actually a really fucking cool story. Is this guy finds out that, so he thinks he's Captain Marvel, right? But then he finds out, like, he thinks that he's just been put those ideas in his head and there is no Captain Marvel. The US just like made a superhero for us to cheer behind.
Okay.
And so he's actually been like brainwashed and it's like all this fake story thing.
Yeah.
Which is really cool if you think about it because it's like, oh, could something like that happen?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where you like,
totally could.
it's like Captain America, right? But if it was like evil and went wrong.
Yeah, right.
You know what
okay,
I'm saying? Where we're going to make like an American soldier.
Yes.
But it's like we just brainwashed him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So in any hand, then I think like this movie comes out and she's, the problem is like she's so much more powerful than everyone else. Is that it's like, oh, it's not even really fun to watch. The part that's fun about Captain America is he doesn't really have any superpowers.
Yeah.
He's kind of just like a good guy and a good leader.
So I'm confused though. Was she in that original comic book? Captain Marvel.
Well, then, of course, it's like comics, there's, for one character, there's an infinite number of stories. Yeah, there's
Okay.
ones where it's Carol Danvers and she's a female.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But the story's just a little better.
Yeah.
In this, it just kind of like sucks.
Yeah.
It's just not stellar.
Well, that is tough because it really sucks whenever like an all-woman cast flops. But then you look at like the Barbie movie, which was
Killed
an
it.
all-woman cast, produced by all women, and absolutely murdered, just like Bridesmaids. So it does, like as a woman, whenever that happens, you're pissed because you're like,
We could have had one.
right, this was our opportunity.
But I think that that's the thing is like when your intent is to like make a point rather than create something great, that is where it actually falls. It's like the other one is the Ghostbusters movie. Do you remember that?
I honestly, I don't even think I watched it because it wasn't like,
They just like knew, they like, we want to make a Ghostbusters movie, but we're going to make it all females.
yeah.
And again, it was like, I think that just every time is it's like, it's not just about the female thing. Like they also do it with like political stuff sometimes in movies and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like they're just kind of trying to make a political point rather than making a really good movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I also think that whenever Melissa McCarthy is cast, they just like are like,
Hammer up.
yep, she'll do it.
She'll do it. Fuck it.
We don't have
Bring
to worry
her in.
about anything else. The script, anything.
But there's other. Did you ever see Girl with the Dragon Tattoo?
Yes.
Like that is like a female empowerment
Yeah.
movie. It's literally about like rape and revenge and
Yeah,
all that
it's
kind
great.
of stuff. But I think again, what they did was they were like, how do we make? They got like isn't it David Fincher? I don't know. But they just got like a great director and great cast and made a fucking great movie that like it could have been a male or a female and it just was great because it's great.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's
Right.
what I think is like important. So again, then if you think about Bud Light is like, I think that there's a way to do it if you want to like be a part of that conversation of like the trans or gay community or whatever, but like still sticking to like the really good things that you do. You know what I mean?
I wonder what the long-term, what it's going to look like long-term with Bud Light, though, because I also know that them doing that was huge for the trans community. Like, they all came out and were like, holy shit, like, we're only going to drink Bud Light now. You know, like,
Yeah.
long-term, is it going to be good for them that they were one of the first to, like, stand out amongst everybody else and be like, we are progressive?
Well, I mean, first time just numbers is like the number of people who drink Bud Light that are like your average white dude from the Midwest
Sure.
compared to how many trans people there are.
Right.
The numbers are like this.
Of course,
So,
of course.
But I think that where they'll win is, which is actually like probably not what you want to hear, but like the CEO basically came out and was like, hey, we fucked up really bad. That was my fault. And everything we did was terrible. We tried to, he just like came out and took the blame. And basically as a company, once you do that, people are like, oh, okay, all right, give me
Yeah.
what you know, and then
I mean,
nobody
it's Bud
cares.
Light. They're not gonna like all these people were like, you know, throwing out their Bud Light cans and like.
But the problem is that they were Bud Light. The big beer brands have been going down because microbrews have become such a big thing over the last couple of years anyway. So they had been losing market share slightly anyhand.
Yeah.
And so it's just probably not like a great time to also take a huge dip.
Right.
Because then it's hard to like dig out of that hole.
Right.
But no, I don't think that like Bud Lights, in the long run, it's just going to be like a blemish and a thing
Yeah.
that happened.
Yeah.
I think that the problem with it though is, so let's say they did this thing, right? They tried to like make a political point,
Yeah.
right? Now I think they're going to be much more reserved to ever do those things, which is not good because the bite was so bad.
Right.
which, it's like I said, there's just like a way to do it. You could just imagine like, okay, we want to get the gay community to come and give free time and work at our warehouse to deliver water and materials for homeless veterans. Okay, well, now we got these two groups to like work and do something together and like join a community together. Like, that's a cool way to do it. No one would look at that and go like, oh, what a bunch of dickheads.
Right.
No, that would have been good.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And I think now it would be less likely for them to do something like that.
Right.
Because they don't even want to tip those scales.
So the CEO came out and was like, we shouldn't have done that.
Totally.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, that extra sucks because then the trans community is like, well, now fuck you.
Yeah. I mean, but again, it's like, who is their customer base?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, granted, it's a much bigger thing, but it would be kind of like with you, with your current customers and being like, hey, I don't care about you guys. I'm going to go care about this other community.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, they wouldn't be excited about that.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, I also think it sucks whenever you're doing it in a way that you're not saying to like one group of customers like fuck you.
Yeah.
You're saying to the other group like we also accept you.
Yeah.
Like hot topic.
But you can't. But that's just not the way people are.
Well, I just wishful thinking.
Visual thinking.
You could see something and be like, okay, cool. This doesn't even apply to me. Like they're obviously just trying to like get other people, in the mix. But hot topic, Matt Rife. Do you know who that is?
Yes.
Okay. Have you seen everything that's been going on with
Yes.
his like stand up? That's my entire TikTok.
Okay.
And the way that he did it really fucking sucks because he was like, yeah, fuck my female, Also, I'm saying fuck a lot.
Drop it.
Okay.
Drop it, sis. Drop it. So you did not find what he said funny.
Well, I think the entire actual skits that he was doing just wasn't funny. Like not even what he was saying. Like, sure, I would laugh at jokes like that if they were actually performed well. But what I didn't like was that he went out and was like, I know that a lot of women come to my shows and they're coming to me because they think I'm attractive. I'm not attractive. But I'm for the boys. I want all the boys to be here.
Yeah.
And then he just went out and made a bunch of jokes that was back of the middle school bus, boys jokes. And that's where I was like, you had this lucrative community that was coming to your shows, blowing your stuff up. And then you were like, yeah, actually, I don't really want to be pigeonholed into females liking me. I really want the boys to like me.
Yeah.
So he came out and was like, fuck this group.
Well, I didn't hear about that part.
Yeah, he did a whole interview.
So what I heard was that there was the joke and it was about that girl with the black eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should have put her in the back, blah, blah, whatever.
Yeah.
I just thought the joke was kind of funny. It's
Did you
stupid.
think the delivery was good?
What's funny? I don't really watch him a lot. I feel like you kind of have to, it's you have to watch a comedian more than once to get their style. Do you know what I mean? If you just
disagree.
watch a quick clip of the guy who I really like, oh my God, what's his name? The Two Bears, One Cave podcast, and Bert Kreischer, and it's his buddy.
Okay.
What? Tom Segura.
Okay.
Do you know who Tom Segura is? His speaks very plainly and matter-of-factly, and he's a dad, and it's kind of dorky, but if you get his aura, you get where a lot of this comes from. Do you know what I mean?
Love the
And
aura.
it just but also the context of everything makes more fun. Is he jokes a lot about, he's it's terrible that there are fat, ugly flight attendants. And it just he just rips on it, right? But also, he does this show with his wife, who's also a stand-up comedian, and she's a little overweight, and she says the same thing, and it's actually just a skit they do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you kind of got to get the context of the person
Totally.
a little bit.
And my whole TikTok is everything that's going on with Matt Rife, every video.
Okay.
And they went back to him on Wild 'N Out, and comparing him to Gary Owens. Gary Owen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, he is like, if they put together like a black comedian lineup, he's going to be in the middle of it. Like he's like predominantly in the black community as like his audience. He's a white guy. And they compared Matt Rife to Gary Owen. I don't know if it's Owen or Owens, but he did that same thing. Like he was like, I don't want to just be in the black community.
Yeah.
I want to be with the white guys. And so he like said to people like, yeah, I don't want to be pigeonholed into that. Totally plummeted his career and then came back up on TikTok with all of these women being like, he's hot and funny.
Yeah.
Dynamic duo.
Yeah.
And then he came out again and was like, I don't want to be pigeonholed with women. So there's a whole background
Yeah, of all of it.
that you got to get the aura from.
Yeah. Huh.
I know.
No, I don't know about his whole thing. What I did, to be like kind of what you were saying, the joke I thought I was like, oh, it's funny, but it's not. I'm not gonna remember.
Is it
for
like
days.
Netflix special funny? Like, you know?
But what I did like was his apology thing.
What was his apology?
He was like, hey, I know I offended and hurt a lot of people's feelings with this joke.
Yeah.
Here is a link. This is my open apology for everything I did.
It was like the helmet.
Yeah, and it was a link to the
Yes.
special needs helmet. And the reason I do like it is like if somebody is a comedian,
Yeah.
right? Like it is their job to like push buttons.
Totally.
And so it's like to get mad about that like is like getting mad at somebody when they hurt somebody in football. It's like, but that's what you do. We're paying you to do this.
But you know what is interesting is that this scenario is exactly like the Bud Light scenario that you just went through and you were like, Bud Light really handled that wrong. He had a predominantly female audience and he came out and was like, I don't want to have a female audience. This one's for the boys.
Yeah.
And then came out and delivered very bad domestic violence jokes.
But like I said, I don't think that Matt Rife is the same as Bud Light.
You don't think so?
Well, like I said, it's like he's a stand-up comedian. Like you're going there to like the point is to push boundaries.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And
We're not
as a
asking
caveat,
Bud Light to like push the political boundaries. We're asking them to make a good, tasty, cheap beer and like employ millions of people. Like, you know.
Well, I think that's the same thing as going to a comedian and hoping that he's not coming out right and being like, "Fuck the women. I want only men to laugh at my jokes." You think?
I don't know. I get. To me, they do seem different. Like a
Okay.
comedian and I don't even know what they are. $100 billion company.
Yeah.
Is like, first, it's like, I mean, they totally have the right to do whatever they want. And like I said with the Bud Light thing in the beginning, I was like, I actually don't think much about like what they did. I just like from a business perspective, owning a business, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that was probably not a solid maneuver. With him, if I had to guess, I could be totally wrong, that him doing that is going to make him more famous.
Really?
And probably the women that do like him, they like those kind of jokes. Like you're not going to a Matt Rife thing for him to like be kind. Do you know what I mean? Like there are the kind of girls that like it's funny. I think it's like a masochistic thing. They like anti-feminist stuff.
Yeah.
Like anti-feminist women.
Yeah.
Like that seems like to me his group.
Well, okay, so as a caveat, I have gone to numerous comedians that are like making jokes in the opposite like viewpoints that I have. Like they'll make COVID jokes where like I would have the opposite, viewpoints on it. They'll make, women in the kitchen jokes that I'll have obviously the opposite opinion on.
Yeah.
And the delivery is always funny. Like I have multiple comedians that I love that, deliver kind of like the same type of joke. But the delivery and the like motive behind it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, you're still a business owner. Even if your business is much smaller, it'd be the same thing as me saying something like instead of growing my community to be, 50-50 women and men, coming outright and being like, I don't like working with women. They're annoying and
Whatever.
whatever.
So I genuinely didn't know that part, right? About him like, oh, I don't want to be known as this kind of comedian or whatever. That's a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little weird. But you know what's funny is I kind of can see I don't think the way he said it, but I could see like he is a super attractive dude. I would not want to be famous for being attractive. Like that I really wouldn't like because it's not something I did. It's not something I accomplished. It's like, there's no pride in that.
Right.
If like you're funny and women find your jokes funny, then it's like, oh, that's my crowd. Those are my people and I like that. But just like being like if you're famous and you got famous just for being attractive, like I can see being like, I don't want to be pigeonholed into that. But I don't think that's what you're saying he was saying.
Right.
That's like a little bit different.
He does have like a you know the people who like know they're attractive, but they're like,
Yeah.
I'm not attractive.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
tell me again that I'm
Tell
attractive.
me,
but I'm not.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the vibe on the interviews that I've
Totally.
seen where he's
Well,
like,
also like he knows he's fucking attractive.
of
like
course,
clearly,
you have a
you're-
mirror.
Yeah, you're good
Come on.
looking.
And also, like, it's kind of just whiny to me. Like, you're sad that you're like attractive and people come to your shows
Yeah.
because of it. Like, then deliver and be funny as well.
Yeah, I do think that. So in general, like with being, this is the other part. You know what's funny? I like watch a lot of comedians and like listen to them talk about stuff. There is the other side of it. It's like people get mad at him for whatever he said, right?
Yeah.
But also like you're a comedian, you know people are going to get mad. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Like, is this really bothering you that you're making millions of dollars
Right.
and somebody's upset about it? Like,
Right.
but I guess from what I saw, it looked like, because I didn't hear the things that you were talking about. I only saw the like apology letter. I just really love the fake apology letter.
Yeah.
That I find, that's like good comedy.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
I agree with that.
That part I'm like, oh yes, that tastes right. Because I don't think if you're, like I said, if you're a comedian, I don't think you should ever apologize for a joke you made. Because the point is that it's a joke.
Right.
Right? Like, do you know who Ricky Gervais is? The British comedian. He like did the what are they called, the Emmys or whatever, like a bunch of years in a row where he's just like roasting actors, like fucking slaying them.
Okay.
Anyhow, he is like, if you watch his thing, like the whole time he's like ripping on just anything that's like kind of precious, like religious views, COVID, trans, gay rights, just like whatever it is, right? But him as a person, he's actually like a super liberal, like British dude.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And talks about it. But his whole skit is like, while he's joking, he's kind of playing a character that is an asshole,
Yeah.
but only slightly.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, he's the guy who made The Office.
Okay.
He made the British Office.
Okay.
Right? So if you think about it's like subtle funny.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Dry
that,
humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I like, and he has said stuff that whatever Matt, this is like a million times worse. Like a million times worse. I remember he was making this joke about who's the Jenner,
Kendall Jenner, Kylie Jenner.
no, the dad. Caitlyn Jenner.
Yes. Yes.
He made a joke about how she should not be driving. And like the context was that like it's funny because a woman shouldn't be driving, but what the actual punchline was that he actually did get in an accident and killed somebody else in a car accident.
Caitlyn Jenner did?
Yeah, like actually killed someone else in a real car
You're
accident.
kidding.
But the like underlying tone of the joke was that like shouldn't be driving because now he's a woman. And like he got massacred. Like people were just going crazy. But he just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
But that's what I do like is like you shouldn't, if you are a comedian, you shouldn't apologize for your jokes.
Right.
Because it's like, that's your art.
Right.
There's my point that's different about Bud Light. There we go. Here's why it's different.
Okay.
Because it's art.
Okay.
Art is different than business. Art is to make you think. Like when you're, like with that joke that he made about how Caitlyn Jenner shouldn't drive anymore is like, what is your visceral reaction to hearing that women shouldn't drive? that says something about you, right? But then also when he gives the context that he actually murdered another person, also that makes you think again too.
Yes.
The point of being engaged in art is to think and
Right.
to see where you're at with things and engage in new thought for yourself.
Yes.
The point of Bud Light is not to get you to think; it's just to sell beer.
I think you can't change my mind with it both being a business.
Okay, all right.
Because, okay, let me also take it back because I didn't even watch the comedy special. Like, I don't have these feelings towards his, like, special, really. And, like, the domestic violence joke, I think, is ironic because of the rest of it. I have the feelings towards you're going into this big break of your career and you're saying, I don't want these,
Got it.
I don't want this demographic. So I care more about that side of it, which is the business side of it.
Which is the business
is
side.
the business
No,
side of it.
you're right. With that side, I would give you that is just like that's
Just bad
it's just like a
business.
childish thing to say.
Totally.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I don't want to be just for these people or
Yes.
whatever. Yeah.
I actually, whenever I started out with my online community, The Hive, I had a business partner going into it. And 2 days before our launch, he came up to me. He was wasted and came up to me and told me that women are all crybabies. Like, just said that to me, like, out of the blue. No, like, context really behind it. And it was, like, I just realized that, well, a lot of different things, like our morals, don't align, whatever. But that's our customer base.
Yeah.
Like, mostly women are going to be coming to you for group classes, for personal training, for it really is that's my demographic especially, but that is a majority of the demographic that is online training.
Yeah.
And you have to know that, like, if that's your demographic, you have to be aligned with that
them,
demographic because
yeah.
it is going to be lucrative for you.
Yeah. No, it is totally right. I decided this a long while ago, and this is just specifically about my business, right? I remember thinking about, so I decided to give health insurance to my whole company, right? And 401k plans, everything, make sure they're all taken care of. It's a
So
huge,
awesome.
it's a huge expense.
Yes.
For a small business.
Yes.
So in hand, in that process, there was a lot of information about like how many men and women you hire and how many blacks and Hispanics and all this different information. And I remember sitting there thinking about it and like, I had made a very clear-cut decision that like for my business is what I will always do is people are only hired, fired, selected, chosen, whatever, off of a spreadsheet. It's the only way. And so what I mean by not actually off of a spreadsheet, but like what are your results?
Yeah.
Right? What results are you capable of? I genuinely do believe that there is a big part missing out of like the conversation of all of these things of like, if you want to be great or you want to have or achieve something is like, you have to focus on results and what you can do rather than what are the impediments in front of you. And I know for a fact, like my number one is a 5'3" blonde female, right?
Yeah.
Like she's my killer. She's my, do you know what I'm saying? So now, but what that means, that doesn't mean that I should just be looking for those type of women, right?
Right.
It's like, here's the platform to be successful. Who wants to do it?
Yep.
And like, she rose above everybody else.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that that's important because it's like, I don't ever want to be stuck in a position where I feel like I have to hire someone, keep someone, or do anything based off of anything besides how much they help other people.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now, then you come into like the thing of like, the conversation of like, should you hire more minorities or whatever to like give them the opportunity for it? And it is a tough thing as a business owner to kind of think about all of that.
Yeah.
It genuinely is. Because you want to be like fair and helpful and you want to be like, you want to give opportunity to people. It's kind of like why you're running a business. But I think that there is an arc right now in society as a whole. So it's like anything, like definitely at a time in the US, we needed to give more additional help to people that were minorities, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think that it's like, I don't want to get into the conversation about like, is it too far now or whatever?
Yeah.
But I definitely think there is not enough of a conversation about like, are they the best in the world at it? Regardless of gender, race, age, whatever. Like, really, are they actually the best at it?
Right.
And I think if you do make that the focus, that what that does is that raises all ships. Do you know what I mean? Or what's the phrase called?
The
Rising tide. Raise all ships,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That is something that we kind of forget about. Is that like, if you say like, okay, we need to hire more like black people, we need to hire more like women or whatever. It's not that that's wrong, right? But let's just say if as a whole, your whole company doesn't grow as much because you don't have the best of the best there.
Yeah.
Well, then you're not creating new opportunities for more people.
Right.
And that's what makes, I mean, that really is another big reason why the entire economy is not as good as I think that it could be.
Because of the hiring,
It's not hiring, is
like
so-
guidelines. There are
No.
some guidelines, like with,
Yeah, but I don't
Right.
think that's the thing that's like bringing us down.
Yeah.
Is it's not like we're doing too much of like hiring minorities and stuff like that. It's getting away from, because remember, they're not like a tilt like this. You can do both. Do you know what I mean? But really a focus on like, are we really like celebrating excellence? Like, not for just how you were born, but like what you produce.
right.
And that I think is something that is like, it's just not, it's thought about less now.
Yeah. Well, I think that you're very special in how you run your business. Very special.
Thank you.
But you do genuinely care about the people that work for you and bettering them and bettering your business. And you know that putting the effort into your employees is then going to make your business do better.
Yeah.
And not a lot of businesses actually run that way. So they don't really care, a lot of them, about their employees. And so they are just hiring. I think that I can see where you're coming from, where like you need to be focusing on both, where you're hiring the best, but also like, obviously giving opportunities to everyone. But I think the lacking is the care for the employees. Like,
Yeah.
my fiance used to work at Rocket Mortgage. I don't know if I can just like talk about businesses like that. Okay? But whenever they went public, the old owner of Rocket, which was,
I have no idea.
he owns like all of Detroit, but he stepped down. He got sick. He stepped down. Other people took over, and they didn't care about anything at like the bottom level. They didn't care about the employees. They just cared about the numbers that they were seeing. And because of that, the numbers started going down because the employees were unhappy. They were overworked. They were underpaid. They were getting, everything taken out of their paychecks just for the bottom line. Well, that ends up hurting your company more than hiring people for opportunity.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, so like, imagine this. And this is way far out there, but I've just had this thought before. So just like, think about it, right?
Okay.
It's like, our government does apply some rules or guidelines and like puts, let's just call it time, money, and energy into making sure that like minorities can get like into colleges or to get, jobs or whatever, things like that. That's good. But imagine if they also, so how like they also make sure there's like OSHA rules, right? And that places are safe. And that they get paid. Like there's a whole government agency for like, if an employee doesn't get paid, they go after the company to make sure that gets done.
Yep.
What if the government also came in and like made sure employees were like showing up on time and made sure that they were producing more than what their level of output was or more than what their level of takeaway was? So, there's a lot of places for like in small businesses where basically kind of what you're paying that person per hour comes out to like, it's almost even.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Just because the nature of like when you're starting businesses.
Yes.
If the government helped businesses like, hey, here's how you can produce more value from this employee to get them to do this, or making sure the employee is held to certain requirements. That's the other side that like is tough that we don't want to think about, right? Because it is like forcing the everyday man to like work more or to do something better, whatever. But if that did happen, that's actually what makes their life better.
Yeah.
The other side that's like, hey, if you get fired, you can get 8 weeks of unemployment, that actually makes them weaker. Like it helps, it's like anything, it helps in the short run,
Right.
right? But it actually hurts the whole country in the long run. So the same thing is like when we do stuff like, whatever, certain helping minorities get into job places or something, right?
Yeah.
That is good. Like, I'm not even saying take it away, but what I am saying, that again is short-term thinking. Long-term thinking is like, how do we make a better, more productive economy? Because then there's more jobs in total and more people, minorities and everybody would have better jobs.
Right. But how do they step into like small businesses to make sure that their employees are you saying like they should be more like on the employer side, like as in they should?
I think that there could be, it is so fucking difficult to start a business. Like all of the like loopholes you got to jump through, like nobody teaches you how to do fucking taxes. Nobody shows you like how to just simple stuff like how to set up like credit card transactions, how to run payroll. Like what if our government, instead of, like I said, worrying so much about like unemployment stuff, which is like, the reason we do that is because that gets votes for politicians, because people want that.
Yes.
But the thing that people want is rarely the thing that people need.
Right.
As where if the person who was going out, taking the risk, starting the company, doing these things because they're going to make more jobs, if we helped those people, so that way it was easier for them to create value and create more jobs, well, that would help us in the long run.
Well, I feel like that goes back to education though, because we don't put enough money towards education across the board. I just had this conversation the other day. Going into like college, most people go in with like 5 ideas of what they want to be. They want to be a doctor, a lawyer, go into business of some sort, kinesiology, and then I don't know. Like,
whatever. Yeah,
right. There's like 5 that you know of going into school. And it's crazy to me that like I never thought of a million different career paths that I could have been very good at. Yeah. But I think that it's like if you had the opportunity to know in some way, like I know they have like the, career tests or whatever, but like that doesn't really tell you what you're really good at. No. If people knew what they were good at and then could excel at what they were good at, we would have a whole bunch of people that were actually contributing to society in a beneficial way.
Yeah, I think then you're getting into this like whole big kind of worms of like if our educational system even like works right for the modern day era. And like I think that's something that's something at some point in time, what sucks is it's gonna have to actually break before we like fix it. But we still have kids going to school, like writing with pencils, showing up at 7:15 like they did in fucking 1888.
Right.
And it's like the world is just completely different now.
Right.
There is nothing that's the same.
Yeah.
And so there's no reason at all that our school curriculum would be the same way.
That is kind of crazy to think about. That
it's just archaic. And like there's nothing that we would, like we don't still ride horses. We don't need this thing. Do you know what I mean? There really is a completely...
Are you talking about like there's a horse riding class?
No, I mean that like in 1888 people rode horses, they didn't have cars. Okay. But what I'm saying is that that standardized system of like how we do that is just probably not the most productive, best way.
Yes. No, I agree with that. But now, I mean, they are like on the other side of that, post-COVID, at least they kind of were forced to advance somewhat with the times. Like every kid started working on like tablets or laptops or whatever. I feel like COVID actually kind of arrested our education system.
To me, that's actually worse.
You think?
Here's why. Okay. When you have a structure in a system the way that it works, and you're still basing you keep the same structure, right? But you put fancy gadgets on it, that just keeps you going a little bit longer. Like the whole system needs to break. I mean, like, think of just like going through school. I can imagine as like, I should not have been in the same grade. I shouldn't have been in a room of people that were my same age. Like, what did that age have to do with anything?
Right.
Like, I remember sitting in class and some of the math things the kids were doing, and I'm like, you all have Down syndrome? Like, I was like, this cannot be fucking real. But also there was stuff in like English that like I just couldn't grasp.
Yeah.
So you need to gather kids by like their intellectual capabilities rather than by like, again, an arbitrary age. It's like, oh, you're all 13, so you're all gonna do the same thing.
Right.
It's like, that doesn't make any sense. That's not how anything in the fucking world works.
I think that they like give that opportunity to like go to like if you're way smarter than all of the second graders and they're like, yeah, do you want to skip a grade?
I did. We called it, oh my God, I can't remember what it's called now. But we would go to the high school from like 1st to 5th grade for one class.
Yeah.
But that's not that's the same structure, but just like putting fancy dials on it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like everything should be different. It should be tested and see what grouping you're in these little, like different collages of like areas to learn. And then based off the things that you're really good at, it's like, here's a list of careers that can really fit the stuff that you're already good at.
Right.
And because you're already good at it, you start working at those things in 2nd grade. By the time you're in 12th grade, yeah, you may like be still taking easy math, but you're in like AP chemistry. Do you know what I mean? And so like, okay, maybe something in biology or chemistry would be a really good place for me as a career choice. But you've also got 10 years of having worked up to that.
Right.
So it just makes it way, way different.
So don't you think that goes back to investing more money into our education system? There has to be.
Yeah.
Like, there has to be like a group of people that sit down and they're like, we need to just change everything.
Yes.
And they take like a year to be like, let's just go through our entire education system.
To be honest, I don't know how you do it, but it's hard. It's like very difficult to destruct systems.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like, it is just tough. Because also, the number one thing that school is actually used for is fucking daycare. Parents go to work and it's just like free daycare for everybody. Really.
Right.
That's probably like its number one thing.
Right.
So you got to keep like that in mind, that we're also just providing free daycare to basically the United States system.
Especially whenever they're not learning anything from your fucking classes.
That's just basically what you're doing. So there's a ton of other substructures of it that like, what is it actually being utilized for, and what are we trying to get out of it? And,
right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think about me going into college, and whenever I first went, like I was applying to colleges, I was writing essays about how I wanted to be like a neonatal surgeon. Because I saw it on Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was my only experience with like what am I going to be whenever I grow older? I'm just going off of shows that I watch, literally. And then I got into college and I was like, no, it's really not for me. And I went into business because my mom was in business. And that's so sad to me that I like spent. Okay, let me also say I'm glad that I went through, business, because I went through accounting and I, have better business skills now in my career field. Yeah. However, I also am lacking in a lot of other areas that I could have been excelling at if I would have known that this was an option to like be an entrepreneur. Like, do they even have entrepreneur classes?
Yeah, I mean, of course they do. I don't even know how they work, but yeah, again, like that whole structure is a little wish-washy too. It's like there's a lot to be said for, rather than going to college, like going and just working underneath somebody for a long time for free.
Right.
Like really, and I think a lot of people are like opposed to that, like working for free for someone. But it's like, you're actually paying to go to school.
Yeah.
So rather than getting into debt, just go zero. Yeah. That's a lot better than negative. Yeah. And do that for 2 years.
I really thought that was where the world was going, with how many people were starting their own businesses and how the opportunity that you have that's just endless with social media and with the internet in general. And I do think that college is such a, it's really hard to get away from, to step away from. Because I have a client who's 17 and she has always said she's not going to college, but all of her friends are going to college.
Yeah.
It's like a social status as
I was
well.
gonna say, yeah, it's really, you get 4 years to go have fun.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a,
I would have been in college forever. I would have paid to go to college the rest of my life. No
Yeah.
responsibilities.
I know.
Rent was $400 a month.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
I didn't realize how much debt I was going to have afterwards.
Ugh.
But you also don't learn that in high school.
No,
You know, like
totally.
my parents are taking out loans for me and I'm like, this is awesome. I'm living for free.
Cool.
And then I get out and I'm like, damn, that would have been cool to like have a class on what's going to happen after college.
Yeah, I think back to, God, all the differences I wish I would have done back then. But, you know, also at the time, it was like, I was just a structure of that age. It's like, that's what people did. We went to college.
Yeah.
We became frat boys and we partied. I don't know. It's
Were you in a
just-
frat?
Oh, yeah.
You were in a frat?
I was president of that fraternity.
You're
I was, I was
kidding.
king frat.
You don't sound like a frat
They
guy.
called me James Fratman.
That's iconic. Did you wear the
full thing.
Yeah, like the colored shorts.
I was
and
technically
the,
actually the chaplain, so like I was the person who like did the rites and rituals and wore a cloak and fucking lighting a skull on fire with a candle and oh god.
That's
I was in it to win it.
hysterical.
Yeah, I was in it.
Do you feel like you brought some of that into like your business owner
Yeah, I'm sure there's some of it.
mentality?
Yeah, make
We're all
a
just a
cult,
bunch of
make
fucking
a
frat
cult.
guys.
Yeah.
I have had this conversation with my fiance so many times that like we'll I don't know, somewhere in our lives, like once a month, we'll run into somebody that's very clearly like in a frat,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they all sound the same.
Really?
Like they all have like this voice like that, you know, like they're like, yeah, I don't know, like on Monday I went to class and we think about that, like, is there just a week of learning how to talk like that?
Is there a bro talk that you go
Yeah.
through? I don't know.
No, not for you though.
Yeah,
You
I
didn't have
guess
that
I did.
in your frat.
No, I didn't. We were. No, yeah, we were. We were as fratty as it comes. We were like pouring Bud Light on each other and spitting it out on girls' boobs. Like we were just whatever you imagine like a frat TV commercial to look like.
Yeah.
It's like that's exactly what it was.
That's so awesome.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
We at the college, well, I went to Southern Illinois, and there was about 3 sororities and 3 fraternities in like the whole school, and they were bad, you know, just like the smallest. So nobody really rushed. Like I was on the cheer team, so I didn't rush. But because they were so small, they were like dying for anybody else to be a part of it, even if you weren't like paying dues. So we just were like all a part of the like frats and sororities, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, sure, come on through.
Really.
And going to those was like my small glimpse into like what a big college, you know, was like. But
Yeah.
they would just be like in their very small backyard that they got delivered like, I don't know, 1,000 pounds of sand and just like made a
Had a
beach in their
volleyball court. Yeah.
backyard.
Just
It's
crazy
like,
shit.
There's no rules.
No. Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. We had a good time though, but I mean, we mostly had like good guys. I don't know. It also changes every single year who that like
Yes.
classes that they bring in.
Yes.
But I remember we also did like cool shit too. We had we like helped put on the Special Olympics through Missouri every single year, and so like even all the like smaller games up to it, and we were like in it. Like we fucking loved that shit.
Cool.
Yeah, we did good community service stuff
Yeah.
too, which was fun.
Yeah.
The whole thing was kind of cool.
Yeah.
How long are we into this bad boy?
Wow. Killed it.
Be good for today.
Okay. Love it.
Woo! Oh.
We're crushing these.
Yeah.